All right. Hello, health coaches. Today we are talking about choosing a niche or a niche or a target market, for goodness sake. It's much easier to say. It's the same thing. And I have 100, that's right, 100 ideas for you with endless variation. So even if one of these 100 does not work for you, you're going to find something that does. I'm so glad that you're here. For those of you that are joining me live, extra excited. And if you're listening later via podcast or on YouTube or on replay in our Facebook group, we love you too. All right, Morgan's here. She's letting you know my microphone is doing just fine. Thank you. I'm using the blue snowball today, which I don't usually use. Trying something new. And Katya saying good morning from San Diego. All right, let's get going. I would like to know, first of all, from those of you that are here with me live, which niche have you claimed for yourself? Or are you considering for your business? And in very plain terms, that means, who are you marketing your health coaching services to? And hopefully the answer is not everyone, because that makes for very difficult, ineffective marketing. If you want to know more about why having a niche or a target market is so important, I am going to direct you right on over to my free training. It's at healthcoachpower.com/training. It's a quick 30 minutes on demand kind of thing that is going to help you better understand this concept, because I give a very practical example of the why and how behind choosing a target market inside that training. So if it's not already completely clear to you, I want to recommend that you go check that out. It will become very clear. The other thing I want to say real quick, when you choose a niche, one of these 100 that I have for you today, it does not mean that you can only ever work with one type of client. It just doesn't mean that. It actually has nothing to do with that at all. It does have everything to do with how you market yourself. It does streamline your marketing efforts and make them easier. Hands up if we like easier marketing. Yeah, I know I do. And I need to give a quick shout out to Julie from Juby Living Well Health Coaching, who left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And she said, so good. I was very recently introduced to this podcast by a health coach friend, and I am beyond thankful. I'm obsessed and getting information that is incredibly on point for where I am currently in my health coaching career. Thank you so much for being here for us. Simple, straight up, with such an uplifting energy. Thank you, and thank you. Wow, Julie, thank you. And if you're listening, please send your mailing address to support@healthcoachpower.com. Reference this episode, and we have a little thank you gift to send your way. All right, you guys, let's see what everyone's saying. Katya says that she is currently targeting women 40 plus, looking to balance their new stage of life. Debbie says, classes related to cooking, ingredient substitutions, and food first approach. Debbie, are you not coaching? You're offering classes instead? That's cool. Same thing. If you're going to market your classes, who are the classes for? All right, we're not going to judge anyone's target markets right now, so don't be shy. Throw them in the chat. Everyone wants to see what everyone else is up to. And I think you will gain clarity as we go through. Okay. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how to choose, because you're going to have to hear lots of ideas today from me, from each other. And it's like, well, which one should I go with? I don't want you to become frozen because there's just too many options. So when I see a health coach really succeeding, targeting a particular market, finding clients, being able to charge premium prices, keep themselves in business, thrive as a health coach, typically, it's going to be one of these three things that formed that connection for them. Either you're going to have personal experience with your niche, either with yourself or maybe because a loved one, a family member, or a friend has experienced something. So for example, let's say that I have type 1 diabetes. Working with other people who have type 1 diabetes seems like a no-brainer. It doesn't mean that's what I have to do as a health coach, but it's an option that would make a lot of sense for me. Now, let's say I don't have type 1 diabetes, but my husband of 30 years has type 1 diabetes. I would also consider that personal experience. So when you're drawing from your own personal experience, it's not necessary, but it's very powerful because you already understand what it's like to have this problem. You've lived it, you've lived with it. So you don't just understand it from like a medical standpoint, you understand the day-to-day life style and habits and everything that goes along with it. So first, think about your personal experience. Now, some health coaches will say, I've always been healthy, Michelle. Is that you? Anybody like the I've never had a health problem type? Hey, that's cool. You got into health and wellness because you've always been a health nut. That's fine. Maybe you don't have personal experience overcoming a health issue. So here's an idea. Think about your client experience. Some of you have been working as a coach for a year, 2 years, 10 years. Who have been your best, your favorite, your most fulfilling clients? I'm not asking you to go through and take the average and try to figure out how all these different clients you've had, like what do they all have in common? Because if you weren't marketing yourself in a really specific way, it might be all over the map. But I am asking you to think about who is the best? Who is the best client for me and why? Or what did they all have in common? So that's another way to choose. And then, of course, a way to choose what your target market or your niche should be is based on any specific training that you've had. So maybe you've never had an autoimmune disease. You don't know anyone in your family hasn't had an autoimmune disease. You haven't had any clients with autoimmune disease yet because you're just starting out, but maybe you've recently completed a very specific training about autoimmunity. Boom, like that's a reason for you to then be drawn to that niche. Obviously, you have something special to offer them and you have particular insights about it. So in none of these cases, do you have to be like the foremost expert in such and such in order to claim it as a niche, but it does help tremendously for you to have some familiarity with the problem, with the person, with that person's life. Got it? Okay, I think a lot of you do this instinctively because we have gone through a problem and then we're just drawn to help people with it. But if you've never quite thought about it this way, I wanted to break it down into those 3 different paths for you to go down in your mind. What do I have personal experience with? What do I have client experience with? And what do I have specific training on? Okay, now there are different ways to narrow down a target market. I have 3 different ways to share with you today. I'm going to start with my favorite, and I'll tell you why it's my favorite, and then we'll move through the others. Any of them are valid, and I'm not here today to judge and tell you this is good or this is bad, but I can often tell you if it's viable or not. Are you going to be able to find these people? Like, it's one thing to say that, like, oh, in my health coaching practice, like I help aliens, reverse cancer or something. But but aliens, how do I get in touch with aliens? And sometimes we choose a target market like that, where like we can speak it, we can say what our target market is, but in practice, we don't know how to get in touch with those people. We don't know how to reach them. I'm obviously saying the alien thing tongue in cheek, but it comes up again and again. So just be careful of that when you're choosing yours. Okay, Morgan is saying she hasn't started coaching yet, but looking to target women in their 20s with hormonal imbalance symptoms. Okay, I'm going to try to pin that in my brain and say something about it in just a minute, Morgan. Oh gosh, let's see if I can remember. And Randy says mental and behavioral health, addiction, and then she also has a vitamins and minerals business. Okay, so Randy's looking to help people with their mental and behavioral health. Good. Angela's saying, your podcasts are so helpful. Thank you, Angela. She says, I work with high achieving women in their 30s and early 40s, fighting chronic allergies and food sensitivities. Great. Okay, so that starts to get into my first area for us to explore. You can define a niche based on a lifestyle, based on a demographic. Okay, so let's not worry about the health issue yet. Let's just think about types of people in the world. And this is my favorite because once you have identified a type of person, they're fairly easy to find. Like, you know where to find them. They tend to gather together. They have pre-existing groups and networks. And also, it doesn't require you to be an expert in like a particular health area, just familiar with a specific group of people. And so my first example, moms. I mean, could it be any more obvious? I feel like most health coaches are like, I help moms, I help moms. So we'll start with moms. It's a great example because if you're going to target moms, we know that they're gathering together in mommy groups when their babies are young. We know that they're perhaps part of the PTA. We know they're dropping their kids off at soccer practice. We know that if they're stay-at-home moms, they're going to the 10 a.m. yoga class in town or hitting the gym for that spin class at 9:30. Whereas if we're targeting corporate moms, we know that we can find them at work, right? So we start to think about who is this person? And then we can go find them. Okay, so moms, there's one. Dads, same thing. Teens, millennials, retirees, right? So I'm just going kind of by age and gender right now. How about, I was going to say women, but people who are childless by choice? That's a lifestyle. That's a specific lifestyle that not everybody might understand. So if you are childless by choice, you might decide that's who you're going to serve. And they're going to be like, oh, she really gets me. This health coach really understands who I am, what I do, and why I do it. How about single women? How about single men? How about divorced women and divorced men and divorced women and men who have children and are co-parenting? That's a lifestyle. Gay men, lesbians, trans folks, African-American, Spanish-speaking, expats, Christians, Jews, Muslims, all different demographics that you can choose to target. Especially, those last few examples I gave, let's say Christians. If you are very much into your Christian faith and you belong to networks and churches and lots of activities having to do with your Christian faith, guess what? You have this huge network already to draw from. So think about your different affiliations, your religious affiliations. Think about your political leanings. This won't be for everyone, but you could target conservatives. You could target liberals. Think about industries. How many of you worked in a job, career, before you became a health coach? I did. So that automatically makes me someone who knows a lot about that industry. So you can target corporate women or corporate men in general. You can target real estate, advertising. That's my background. I've had so many clients come to me through advertising. They just know, Michelle, you get it. You've been here. You know how crazy it is. And they'll hire me without a second thought because I have an in with them. How about the tech industry? They need health coaching, don't they? How about small business owners, online entrepreneurs? And think pilots, think military, think shift workers or night workers, very specific needs, very different lifestyle that you would have if you were a night worker. The restaurant industry, they're another one that really need help, right? And they have this particular lifestyle. They're going to be free when no one else is free, and they're going to be working when no one else is working, right? So if you can match that schedule, perfect. What about digital nomads? They don't live anywhere. They travel the globe with their work. That's a very particular lifestyle that you could target. Truck drivers? How about athletes, marathoners, cyclists, dancers, golfers? I bet we're a bunch of health coaches right here. So I bet you guys are involved in all different types of sports, physical activities, right? Yoga, Pilates, like any of these can be a way for you to define a niche. Again, do you have any particular experience? Are you a golfer yourself? Did you dance professionally, like did salsa dancing or something for the past 20 years? Like these things will direct you to a perfect niche market for you. What about brides to be? What about pre and post pregnancy or homeschoolers? What about post-bariatric surgery or chronic dieters? Right? I just blew through, I think that was 46 different types of lifestyles and demographics that you could hone in on, and they each have specific needs. But it's not enough. So let's say that you were like golfers. I got this. I'm a golfer. My whole family golfs. I've golfed since I was 2 years old. Michelle said golfer. I'm going to do golfers. Great. You're not done. Oh, right there, hold it, because you're not done. Once you've decided on a demographic, you got to ask yourself, what can I help these people with? What do they need particular help with? I can help a golfer get, right? And you want to make sure that this demographic has a big problem that you can help them with. And I'm going to say that again because I breezed over it. They have a big problem that you can help them with, or a big desire that you can help them with. So let's just take golfers for an example. I am not a golfer, so that was probably not the best example for me to choose, but let's just roll with it. Tell me in the chat, what might a golfer need help with? And I realize that golfers come in various shapes and sizes and ages and locations. So maybe we would need to niche down a little bit more. Maybe we're talking to, retirees living in Florida who are golfing. Maybe they have the problem that their doctor's telling them that they have to lose weight because their cholesterol is high and their blood pressure is high and yada, yada. They're of that age group, men who are being told that they need to lose weight and they don't want to. They don't want to do any kind of diets. But if you could appeal to them through golf, maybe they would go for it. Maybe you could help them improve their golf game while they're at it. I'm thinking that would also apply to other golfers, helping them improve their game, stamina, energy, focus, right? These are all things that a health coach can help with, even if you know nothing about golf. Although it does help if you know something about golf, just so you can relate to these people. Tom's saying flexibility. The menopause health coach says getting around the course. Yeah, at that age, right? Just mobility, 1000%. And they love to golf. It's like one of their main pastimes, right? So if they weren't able to, if they're finding it difficult, if it's like a chore now for them to get out on the golf course, that qualifies as a really big problem. Like they don't want that. They want to be golfing for the next 10 or 20 years. So appeal to them through that lens, and you have a much better chance of landing a client versus, hi, I'm a health coach and I can help you live a happier, healthier, more vibrant life. And they're like, whatever. Right? So you got to speak to people in their language. That's why it's so important to figure out who they are. And then everything from that would follow. If I'm targeting golfers, you're going to go to my website and it's not just going to be me smiling, happy health coach. I'm going to be on a golf course or holding a golf club or something. I'm talking about health. I'm talking about mobility and energy and all the things I need to be an excellent golfer. Right. But my whole brand can be geared toward golfers, and that's going to make them think in an instant, this is the right person for me. Okay. I think we have talked at length about the idea of choosing a target market based on lifestyle. Let me know if you have any questions that have come up in the meantime. But I want to make sure we have time to get on to the other. So I'm going to move into a different mode. And this is where you can choose a target market based on a symptom or a health issue. These are inherently a little more tricky because where do you go to find someone who has high cholesterol, for example? Like, are they hanging out at the high cholesterol club? You're just gonna drop by there on a Thursday evening and find them all hanging out? Not really. So as we go through these, you're gonna see why it's important to also define some demographic or lifestyle details, right? But you can begin by thinking about the health issue that you know the most about, and then figure out who within that needs your help. You'll be better able to find them, excuse me. So for example, let's say we're going to target people with high cholesterol, but again, not really sure where to go with that. If we're going to target corporate men with high cholesterol, then it's like, yes, I'm going to go into corporate settings. I'm going to hold corporate workshops. We know that a lot of these men in the industry are sitting at their desk all day, probably not eating great. A good percentage of them are going to have high cholesterol. So that would be a possible way for you to find them, as opposed to looking and looking and looking for the high cholesterol club meeting. Okay, so let's go through some common symptoms / diseases / health issues that health coaches can help with. And we can really help with anything. We'll start with the most obvious. What is it? Weight loss. Yeah, I'm recording this episode as it happens to be in January. So there's a lot of that weight loss energy going around. And that is an example of such a big topic that applies to so many kinds of people. You will absolutely need to niche down further. And niching down to women with weight loss is not enough, right? You're going to want to niche down to women of a certain age with weight loss, or women who have low thyroid and I help them with weight loss, right? Because the bigger, not the bigger meaning the more important the health issue is, but the more people that have it in the world, the more you will have to narrow in on exactly who you're talking to. Because you can walk even into the bookstore and get hit in the face with like 500 books about weight loss. It's just such a saturated industry. And the more saturated something is, the more you have to narrow down on someone in particular. Maybe you help golfers with weight loss, right? So these two things compare together, the issue and the lifestyle. Okay, so that's the first one. Weight loss, a very, very big one. Please niche down further. Same would go for something like fatigue or low energy. Probably like almost everyone on the planet could use more energy. So you're definitely going to have to get more specific about that. Again, going back to our golfers, maybe we don't want to talk about weight loss. Maybe they don't care so much about weight loss. They care more about the energy they need for the game. Great. Maybe you're going to talk with moms of kids between 1 and 10 years old. God bless them. I'm so glad to be out of that stage, but they need energy too. So get specific about who needs the energy. What about sugar addiction? Same thing, can apply to so many people, but if you know a whole lot about kicking sugar, think about who can you best help with that. Then there's things like bloating, heartburn, brain fog, stress, all very common. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, metabolic syndrome. If you're going to target something like metabolic syndrome, you got to think, does the person know they have metabolic syndrome? Have they been given that diagnosis? And that would be one kind of person. Or do they just have all the symptoms, but they haven't been diagnosed, or they have no concept of what metabolic syndrome is? Because that means if you were to go out there and like hold a workshop about overcoming metabolic syndrome, like they're not going to sign up for it because they don't even know what the heck that is. But if you were targeting the first type of people with the diagnosis, then they would. So it's important to draw that distinction when we're talking with any type of diagnoses. I mentioned type 1 diabetes earlier. Yes, type 2 diabetes could be another option, and I would consider them separately because they are different, or you could consider them together because they have similarities. What about prediabetes? I mean, what are the rates? Does anyone know off the top of your head how many million of Americans have prediabetes? There's a target market for you. Anxiety can be a target market. Depression can be a target market. With these, again, have they been diagnosed with? Are they taking medication? Is it very, very severe versus I'm feeling anxious today. I get anxious a lot. Or I've been down in the dumps, kind of low mood, no diagnosis, no medication. There's a spectrum there. You're going to want to decide where on that spectrum you're going to fall, and be careful with that. Of course, make sure if it's on the far end, you're working with other practitioners. You could target people with IBS. You can target people with celiac disease or Crohn's. This is where I'm going back to, who was it? Oh my goodness, I'm scrolling back here. Was it Randy? No, it was Morgan, who said she wanted to help women in their 20s with hormonal imbalance symptoms. Well, Morgan, I want to tell you that no 20-year-old is saying, I have hormonal imbalance symptoms. I'm so glad that Morgan's here to help me with hormonal imbalance. She's not thinking that. But women with hormone imbalances might be thinking about their PMS. So you could target PMS. You could target endometriosis. You can target PCOS, infertility, low sex drive, menopausal hot flashes, osteoporosis, right? I just went through all kinds of hormonal problems from a younger age to a more advanced age. Anything along that spectrum you could target, but I wouldn't just target hormone health or hormone balancing. It's too broad. It means too many things to too many different women. You can target autoimmune disease in general. You could target specific autoimmune diseases. Does anybody do this? Tell me if you're here live, if you're an autoimmune health coach. We've got things like Hashimoto's disease, lupus, MS, celiac. Maybe I already said celiac, sorry. Arthritis or joint pain, psoriasis, eczema, rosacea. Now we're getting into skin issues. You can target people with acne. You can target people with fibromyalgia. How about migraines? How about asthma? How about Lyme disease? See, now we're on the end of the spectrum. Like we started with weight loss and brain fog that like everyone pretty much suffers with to some degree. Lyme disease starts getting real specific. And when you're dealing with Lyme disease, if you're targeting people with Lyme disease, you probably don't need to niche down much further than that, because not that many people have it. I mean, a lot of people have it, but not the way that a lot of people want to lose weight. So the more specific the diagnosis, the less you have to say, am I targeting men? Am I targeting women of this particular age or this location? Because the problem is specific enough. Does that make sense? Same would be for like toxic mold issues. Only a small percentage of the population has any idea what that is or knows that they have it. You can target emotional eating. You can work with obesity. You can work with histamine intolerance, right? There's another real specific one. So in all of these cases, do just run it through a filter. Don't just say, oh, I help with this one health issue. Think, what type of person do I help with this type of issue? Is it a broad issue? Do I need to be specific? You know, I need to narrow down on the type of person. And then, and here's the clincher, you guys, I help them get what? My niche is acne. I help women with acne. Great. What do I help them get? Get rid of acne forever? It's a big claim, right? Do I have reduce breakouts? I think that's a more fair, reasonable claim to make. I mean, that is what you're going to be helping them do. I help them get, you could appeal to what they want instead of what they don't want. I help them get smooth, clear skin. I think that would probably work best for you if you were targeting women with acne. All right, let me go through some of the comments that have come in while I was just chit-chatting. Randy said, I like that. I was a single mom for 14 years. It's draining, and that made me not trust others. A health coach would have been helpful. Single moms, it's a totally different lifestyle than if you're parenting, you know, with 2 adults in the house. Letitia says, for me, weight loss is an end result to many other things. All my clients want it, but their real issue is burnout or anxiety or chronic pain. Yes, great point. And for this, what I want to say to you is you have to meet your clients where they are. And that means she may have severe burnout, anxiety, chronic pain, probably a whole host of other issues that go along with that. Which one is she seeking help for? Probably the weight loss. And that's the way of the world. I mean, it's actually awful, and I hate to admit it. So if you go out there with a message about, I'm going to help you with your anxiety, and she's like, yeah. Well, what I really want to do is lose 20 pounds. You're not going to get the client. She's going to go with a weight loss program. She's going to go with something that is meeting the need that she thinks she needs, that she wants, not what you want for her, not what you think she needs. Do you know what I'm saying here? So another opportunity to reach that type of woman would be to be out there with the message about how weight and anxiety are intermingled, or about how stress and weight go hand in hand. You know, maybe there's a way for you to talk about them together, but ultimately, you know, you'd be targeting a certain type of woman who is likely to be stressed out. So maybe lawyers, you know, and you can, dollars to donuts, she's going to want to lose weight. And that's just how it is. So be careful about targeting something that you think is a big problem for this person versus what they think is a big problem. I needed to say that, and I appreciate you, Letitia, for bringing up that point. Okay, Katie said 1 in 3 adults have prediabetes, according to the CDC. Thank you, Katie, for looking that up while I was talking. 30% of the adult population has prediabetes. So again, if they know they have prediabetes, then you can market to that. This is a guide to prediabetes. This is a workshop for people with diabetes, for women with diabetes. Or maybe they don't know they have it, or they kind of went la 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 with their fingers in their ears when their doctor told them, and therefore they probably are dealing with low energy issues, weight loss issues, and they're going to respond to that type of messaging instead. So again, am I targeting people who know about the diagnosis or not? Very good. Letitia said she works with autoimmune clients. Manon says autoimmune and environmental toxins. Great. And Letitia also says it's chronic pain and autoimmune illness for me, but I don't feel like they know how to use me. Could they be too overwhelmed by practitioners already? That is something to consider. And with all of these, you want to consider, is this person ready, willing, and able and accessible to me? We talked a little bit about the accessibility piece earlier when I mentioned trying to work with aliens, but are they ready, willing, and able? Do they know they have the problem? Do they want to work on the problem? And are they able financially? Do they have enough energy? Do they have the resources, basically, to be able to hire a health coach right now? And if they're already working with like a huge number of practitioners, the answer might be yes, because they've demonstrated that they are willing to spend money to get help. The answer might be no, because they have spent so much money to get help. This is where some market research comes into play, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. So moving on, because we are running out of time, but there's so much to talk about today. The final way for you to approach target markets is based on a diet interest. Now, this is probably my least favorite way to define a niche because it is focused on a method, not a person, not a problem, which means it's harder to find the people who are interested and have a big enough problem that warrants them hiring you. What I mean by that is, let's say you're a coach and your target market is, or your niche is plant-based. Okay, someone might be curious about going plant-based. How are you going to find them? Like, where would you market yourself? They're kind of all over, right? It's hard to actually literally do the work of targeting, saying, I'm going to go there, or I'm going to advertise in this magazine, or I'm going to be a guest on that podcast, right? Because you're trying to find people who are interested in going plant-based. It's kind of a crapshoot. So we don't know exactly where to find them. And if they're just curious, they're just plant-based curious, there's no particular problem to solve, are they going to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars to work privately with you? I'm going to pause right there, let that sink in. In any of these cases, is the problem big enough? Is their motivation strong enough for them to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars to work with you? We know someone that has, say, chronic pain, fibromyalgia, like, yes, they're spending money to feel better because it's so bad. They're willing to do that. But if they're just like, it might be interesting to go plant-based, no, they're probably going to buy like a $29 book, So in that case, I would back up the truck and go, why do they want to go plant-based? What problem do they have that would lead them to think they should go plant-based? And then target the problem instead. Target the person and the problem in like 99% of cases. Now, that being said, you could niche down into vegetarianism, veganism, raw veganism, gluten-free, dairy-free. You're helping people. Maybe their big problem is that they have to go gluten-free for a health reason, but they're having trouble sticking to it. That's a little weak. They would have to be having a lot of trouble sticking to it and suffering the consequences. And why are they going gluten-free in the first place? If they have celiac disease, I want you to target the celiac and then help them with everything that goes along with that, not just going gluten-free. Okay, but maybe you're a specialty in the FODMAPs diet or AIP or low histamine or low carb or paleo or keto or intermittent fasting. Now, those last few are very hot right now, the keto and intermittent fasting. So sometimes this works because everyone's interested in it. Everybody wants to do it. You might get traction very quickly because it's popular in the media right now, in the zeitgeist. So there are opportunities for that, but be careful if you become known as like the intermittent fasting queen. A couple of years from now, that may no longer be so popular, and your business might have, had this peak and then straight downhill because what you're known for is no longer considered so hot. And with any of these, even if you're like, you know what, Michelle, I hold cooking classes and I create courses and I make them all about going low carb. Okay. And what do we help our clients get as a result of going low carb? What do we help our clients get as a result of, any of these dietary interventions? Think about that. Why are they going on the diet? So for example, maybe you're an expert in keto because you help people with epilepsy. I got a girlfriend, she had a child who was having the terrible, terrible grand mal seizures all the time. And they went on a keto diet for him and it worked, right? Like that was really hard for her to do. So that would be very different than, I help women over 40 go keto to lose their menopause belly. You know what I mean? Very different business model. So consider, what do I help people get through this dietary intervention? Morgan saying, should I state my niche on my website? I don't want to discourage new clients since I have none, but I also want those who do perfectly fit my niche to feel and trust that I can help them. Yes, your website is a place for you to be very specifically talking to your target market, not just naming it. I work with golfers, but appealing to them. Make your next golf game great. Keep golfing for the next 20 years. That's what that target market wanted to hear, right? Our retirees in Florida. You want to gear all of your marketing efforts toward this person, because if that person were to arrive at your website, Morgan, and it was just like healthy living by Morgan, I help you live a happy, healthy life, they're much less likely to become a client than if that golfing client arrived at your site and they saw something that was specifically for them. And that's why it is counterintuitive, but the more you niche down in a really smart way, the more clients you will get, not less. Remember what I said earlier, you can still work with anyone. So if your neighbor doesn't fit your target market, that's okay, because you're just talking to them anyway. A target market helps you when you are putting forth marketing efforts. If you're going to run an ad, if you're going to put a billboard on the side of the highway, you better have a target market in mind before you spend all that money. And here's the last bit that I'm going to say about target markets for today, or niches or niches. Just because it looks good and it sounds good, or even because I said it in this episode, it doesn't mean it's bulletproof. You're going to want to make sure that you go after a niche that's ready, willing, and able, that's accessible to you, and that wants to do the work. I mean, I guess that's part of being willing, but that is proven that they are interested in spending money to solve their problem. Because they could be curious, they could be kind of interested, but if someone's not putting their money where their mouth is, they're really not that interested. If some of you are holding consultations with people or offering consultations and nobody's taking you up on working with you, chances are they don't have a big enough problem, or you're not tapping into that problem. You're not bringing it into their mind in a way that makes them go, oh yeah, I really do have a big problem. I really should hire this health coach. And this is why inside Healthy Profit University's core curriculum, I teach how to do market research and validate your niche idea before you move forward, before you redo your website, before you put together a whole bunch of materials and spend a bunch of money on it. I want you to validate it first. Make sure that this idea you have in your head and you write down on paper, is this going to work? It's like, let's go find out first. And if you want to learn more about that, check out, again, my free training, which is at healthcoachpower.com/training. And I want to thank all of you for joining me today for this episode. And I'm happy to take your questions inside the Facebook group so we can keep talking about your niche ideas. All right, take care, everybody. I'll see you next time.